in the shadows of the mind where secrets hide. We dive into the dark where truth collides. Forensic minds unravel the twisted thread. True crime tales from the living and the dead. Why did they do it? To help, for love, in anger, or insane? Who will remember them? Who is to blame? The victims deserve justice. The guilty should be until the end of time. Echoes of the past in every crime.
All right, everybody. I hope that you guys are all doing quite well. Me, myself, and I. If we were doing any better, it'd be a crime. So I hope that your week is off to a great start. And I needed an afternoon to rest. So I've got the afternoon off, and I decided that I'd go live for a little bit and talk about some stuff, if that's okay with y'all. So please remember, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you want to. And I am going to be talking about gang stalking and targeted harassment today. We'll talk about, kind of like, what is it? How does it come together? The bullies that are driving the machine, what are they getting out of it? Because can we be truthful about this? People don't repeat behaviors unless there is a reward. Sometimes that word, we always think about primary rewards, like food is a primary reward. Sex or affection is a primary reward. Affiliation, having friends, or being the focus of attention if you're a little narcissist. All of those things are highly rewarding. There's other kinds of rewards as well. Money, right? Money's a huge reward. Reputation, huge reward. Building a channel, watching your subscribers inflate and increase, very powerful reward. All of those things are connected to survival, long-term survival. So, if you run across someone who is, organizing a group of people to target 1, 2, 3 people, if they get reward out of it, they're going to repeat it, right? So that goes back to what we call classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Conditioning just being a word that means learning, right? And classical conditioning is when there is either reinforcement, negative or positive, and punishment. And then operant conditioning is where there is an exchange. There's a reward system that may go beyond the simple connection, right? At the simple connection that you see in classically conditioned scenarios. Pavlov dogs is that was the primary um, research project that sort of really got the behaviorists focusing in on classical conditioning, not just direct conditioning, but secondary and tertiary type of gain. And the notion of conditioning is something that surrounds us. It's everywhere. Teachers become experts in using classical conditioning to control students in the classroom, and to just make it super simplified. And sometimes classical conditioning can be pretty complicated, but the most basic form is just simply if you want to increase the likelihood that that behavior will occur again sometime in the future, you add something to that person's environment. It's called positive reinforcement. Positive doesn't necessarily mean good. Positive and negative are mathematical functions. So for classical conditioning, positive reinforcement, you are adding in a reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, you are removing a reinforcer in an effort to make that behavior more likely to occur again in the future. Positive reinforcement, super simple. If you do what I want you to do, I'll give you an M&M. That's if you want more M&Ms, you got to keep doing what I've asked you to do. Negative reinforcement's a little bit different. It's not a value judgment of something being good or being bad. It's literally, did I add something to the environment or did I remove something from the environment? And the example I think that is the clearest, in Vietnam, they tortured enemy soldiers by putting bamboo splinters underneath the fingernails of the American or British soldiers. And they would put this immense pain into their environment before ever asking them a single word. And then they ask their question and they say, you have to give me this information and I'll remove one of these splinters. And so, always the first question is, name, rank, and serial number, correct? And because soldiers will give their name, rank, and serial number. And so when they would tell the name, rank, and serial number, they would pull one of those splinters out, which was provided immense relief from the pain. And guess what happens then when they ask the next question? What is your rank and what is your mission? Well, they may hesitate a little, but the longer those splinters stay underneath your nails, the more painful it becomes. And it doesn't take very long, 2-3 questions, and the person is singing like a bird. Nothing matters more than having the pain taken away. So that's the negative reinforcement, just removing something from the environment. So gangstalking and targeted harassment, they start based on a single person who has a pretty bad character flaw, right? There's something wrong with them that vengeance or sadistic delight becomes the primary motivator for them. Somehow, some way, they want to see another person unhappy or embarrassed or ashamed or just ostracized. That's a big one, right? We've got some creators on YouTube that are experts in getting groups of people to ostracize other creators. They're really good at it. And they, I'm sure that it makes them feel powerful and they feel smug. But for some people, we just look at it and say, wow, look at that. That's quite psychopathic behavior. Okay. So the group dynamics, choosing a victim, and then gradually collecting a gang of people that somehow or some way are experiencing reward from joining in with the hate mob, right? And I do think that while the Mean Girl Club is alive and well, like we all had them in high school, right? I do think it's alive and well even among middle-aged women on YouTube. I think there's something deeper at what we're seeing in the past year. I think it's vengeance. I think this is being driven through vengeance. The need to hurt back, right? That a group of people or one or two people feel wronged and they kind of aligned with other people who had been wronged. And it has now formed a very, very powerful group of people. So slander is, which is, that's part of the tools that are used in the gang stalking. That's part of the tools to try and ostracize another person. And slander is just defamation. It's spoken defamation, spreading false information to destroy another person's reputation. And that is the pathway to having that person ostracized. It's a quest to remove power from the targeted victim. Libel is basically the same thing as slander, except that it's been written down. Now, there have been some court cases that will support the argument that publishing a product like a YouTube video, that can also be considered libel. So it's not just the written word, it can be a final product of messaging that its intent is to slander. So psychologically, slander is not really gossip, although some people may feel like it's simple gossip. It's actually a real weapon. And the targeted use of the slander, repeating it over and over and over again, rewarding weak individuals who start repeating it because they want the bully's approval. All of that is an effort to create real harm. And because the desire to hurt another person is so real, sometimes horrible things actually happen. For example, the two YouTube creators in Las Vegas that were murdered. They were murdered by their victim of slander. There were two YouTube creators that were very charismatic, had lots of friends. Everybody really liked them. They began making fun of this other creator, and the other creator was quite unstable. And he fell victim to the emotional harm, the anxiety, the depression. He was demonstrating symptoms of PTSD. And he just got a belly full of it and got a gun. He knew they were going live on their channel. And he went right to them and shot them right there with everybody watching. The cameras were rolling. It was incredible. And I felt like at the time that it happened, it was such a clear example or a clear moment to see where the symptoms of PTSD that the victims of slander experience, that is very, very powerful, and it can cause death to others, death to the bullies. And we have other examples where people turned their shame and humiliation on themselves and killed themselves, all as a result of unrelenting, targeted harassment, dangerous slander, the goal being isolation and destruction. And you have to think about this as well. It's easy for someone to get angry and act out and say something, call, oh, well, you're just a bitch, right? That people understand that. In fact, there are some murder defenses where they consider emotional distress at being at the heart of the aggressive, action. But targeted harassment that's lasted for a year, that's a little bit different. That's being accomplished in an environment where there is delight, not satisfaction, where you see the effects of the stress and the trauma on the target victim, but you don't feel anything but sadistic delight. And so it began at some point in that 12-month period of time, law enforcement starts looking at that and they start saying, okay, I get the initial stimulus that someone says something crappy about you or your kid and you act out in protection and anger. Everyone understands that and everyone protects your right to do that, right? But when it lasts for 12 months and there's a coordinated effort among 3 or 4 different channels or people, and they seem to be talking and making plans about how they're going to keep it up, tap in, tap out, right? Then law enforcement starts looking at that and they see intent to harm. There's like this weird fine line not to step over, lest you be considered like the Adelsons and that you are now culpable if something terrible happens to the targeted victim. If the targeted victim ends up passing away, God forbid, but let's just say the stress gets too much. Let's just say that the situation just becomes erratic and unpredictable, and there's a tragedy that happens. You might find yourself being accused somehow of creating this tragedy for one reason only, for the targeted harassment lasting unrelenting for a year. It's not going to be hard at all for a prosecutor to look at a year of hate videos among 4 channels every night with talks of coordinating 24-hour round-the-clock slander and libel. It's not going to be hard for them to make that argument. It's going to be really easy for a prosecutor to do that. And in my opinion, just me, my opinion is that in this day and time that we're living in, because we've all developed such rich online lives, I think there's a lot of people who have lost family members to targeted harassment, shame and embarrassment, feeling like there's nowhere to turn because their most embarrassing moment at school has been weaponized against them. That someone takes something shameful and embarrassing and turns it into a weapon and uses it to try to make them the laughing stock of this large gang of people. We just saw Cobra. He just died in a very sad and questionable way. There's an investigation into his death because one of his bullies, someone that had been engaged in targeted harassment, a large group of people coming at him night after night. His dad wept. His dad said he never knew why people just made fun of him, and it was unrelenting. And his dad could never see what he was doing to other people to make them do it, but they did. And they sent him a care package. This is a YouTube creator. And they sent him a care package that had some, normal snack food and things like that in it. And there was a package of these seeds. And he was dead in 2 days with exactly the symptoms as what happens to you if you ingest these seeds. Now, there's talk that you can eat morning glory seeds and get high off of them. So was he told somehow that he would able to get high off these seeds? Why would they be included in this care package? Like what? So there is a murder investigation that is happening. So the propensity online to take one person and sort of turn them into a lol cow through repeated harassment and recognizing subscribers with friendship and giving them positive conditioning, reinforcing when they act out against your intended victim. It doesn't take very long to get an organized group together that then begins to turn the scapegoat or the victim's life upside down. And like I said, there's a lot of reasons for this gang stalking. Sometimes it's revenge, it's vengeance, sometimes jealousy. Sometimes people do it just to boost their own status. One of these creators, she is tuned in, baby. She is tuned in on what people are massing toward. And she gets on the action. Like when everybody was, hating Christopher Proudfoot, boy, she was on that. She was dragging him through the coals. And then something else started happening. And she could see that there was a large group of people that were standing in defense of Katie and Chris. And it was no longer cool to support this view that Christopher Proudfoot might be a scary guy. And she found a way to back out of that and join up with the whole, leave the families alone. You shouldn't be talking about them. And then she went all the way to becoming best buddies with Chris Proudfoot and putting up photographs of Sebastian and such. So people that are making their living online, their channels become their career. They're not just being authentic. They're not just going live and being authentic and giving you information and opinions that are authentic. If they know what they're doing, they're calculating. They're being careful. They're thinking about building and growing a community because community translates into YouTube coin. So when the gang stalking or the targeted bullying, when it reaches the level of psychological warfare, Now it's not simply, well, they made me mad. This is an argument we're having. When you turn it into psychological warfare where you're tagging in and tagging out, when will you be live talking about a creator? And then I'll be sure to go live right after you finished. And then we've got people over in the UK that can go live about your targeted victim while we sleep. And that way we can keep this crap going 24 hours a day. And this was conversation that was said on one of these channels. It's now psychological warfare, isn't it, Christopher Proudfoot? Because, like, who better to know about psychological warfare than you and Katie? So the organized stalking, one person with a grudge becomes multiple people that get together and they coordinate a plan of harassment toward one person or two people. They actually use surveillance. They literally follow people around. It's so bizarre. It's such a bizarre, weird thing for a person to do. So there's surveillance. They intentionally start rumors that are lies, and they know they're lies. And they take real steps to sabotage that intended victim. If the targeted victim takes steps to try and maybe fix the problem, fix the situation, then the group that are engaging in psychological warfare, they sabotage that attempt to clean up the mess. They don't want it fixed. They want it to continue. The express intended goal is to destroy the targeted victim. Now, the targeted victim is just confused. They're the target of this intense hate campaign with a lot of lies and a lot of misinformation swirling about, and they're knocked off center. They don't really understand what's happening, and it feels, in the beginning, it feels overwhelming. And then you get to a point that you feel really confused by it. And then you get to a point where paranoia begins to kick in. And you get psychological decompensation that is incredibly real. Victims of this type of psychological warfare or targeted harassment, they score really, really high on instruments that measure psychological distress. Even physiological testing like blood pressure is off the charts. It's like if you have one scary person that is stalking you, that's terrifying, right? But you have to amplify it by the number of people that are doing it. And since the advent of social media, it's not just one or two people, it ends up being hundreds of people that are engaging in these things. They may not think that they're a part of the hate mob. They may not think they're engaging in psychological warfare because they're just sitting there watching it and laughing at the jokes. But to the person who's experiencing it, to the targeted individual, they get really afraid. They'll tell stories of being frightened to go out to a store to buy groceries because they have this delusion that people are watching them or taking photographs of them that will then later get shared, on social media or whatever. Listen, people drive by my house 100 times a day, probably not 100 times because I live in a pretty rural area, probably 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 times a day. There's different trucks, work trucks, cars going up and down the road. I know because I have a security system that takes a photograph every time, there's movement. imagine if you are the focus of targeted harassment, and your brain, because you're under constant stress, that is a chemical imbalance in the brain. You are really and truly feeling a message that these cars are carrying people that want to harm you. And if you're not the targeted victim, it just sounds crazy to you. Your friend is saying, "Oh, look, there goes that blue car again. It's been driving by all day, taking my picture." And you're going, "Okay, sister, settle the hell down. You sound like a nut. Nobody's taking photographs of you. It doesn't matter if people drive by your house." If you're the intended target, it does feel authentic. You don't have the awareness that you're being delusional. You are frightened. And can I remind you, we had one YouTube creator who drove to Las Vegas Strip with the intended purpose to kill two other YouTube creators, a husband and a wife, who were making fun of him every single night. That was a man looking for relief. So there is this perceptual blend of reality and delusion when you are the target of these people. Your fear is creating a disruption in your neurochemistry. So your rational thought is not really there, right? It's not really very accurate. You're not testing reality accurately. So this is a super complicated set of circumstances. You get one person that attracts the anger and the ire of a person who's a bit on the psychopathic side. And they feel that they have a right for vengeance, or they may have jealousy, or they may just have some sadism and they just want something funny to laugh at. And that's the starting point. After that initial personality disorder seeking vengeance, then the groupthink theories come into play, because you've got a group of people whose actions are being rewarded when they move like a coordinated group, like a singular object. That the group of people that are being rewarded so that they become a part of this bigger group, their involvement is being rewarded, then they lose their ability for independent thought, because now they're locked in through reinforcement, and they have to move as a single group with the original personality disordered leader of the group. And so the group dynamics get really dark and scary. And again, when you move from anger and frustration, that you feel like you've been wronged, and so you're trying to act out to get, to even the score, that is forgivable. I'm talking about by law enforcement, right? By the law. That is forgivable. There's a lot of defenses for that. But when this goes on for more than a year, and it now involves thousands of people, and those whole thousands of people are acting and moving as a single object toward one particular targeted individual, law enforcement doesn't understand that, other than to say this is a conspiracy to harm another person. This is a planned effort among multiple people to bring about the damage and the destruction of this one scapegoated individual. Now, for the group dynamics, for this group, the psychology of a single group movement, you've got to consider scapegoating. There's something that is called diffusion of responsibility, which is very dangerous. It's something that you see like in war times, people act out in a way that's very strange. There's groupthink. There are the psychology of power imbalances. And then, of course, you know, the envy, competition, which basically equates to like perceived levels of threat. So through scapegoating, a whole group solidifies and unifies around a single common enemy. And that creates, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that creates a really, really, really powerfully rewarding sense of affiliation. And in a world where there's a lot of people that don't know who the hell they are, and they don't know what their purpose is in life, and they don't know to which group they belong, suddenly having affiliation, suddenly being included in a part of a group, man, that is better than calf manna from heaven. Diffusion of responsibility is the idea that if everyone's involved, no one's guilty. So in Vietnam, there were soldiers that went in and killed everyone, women and children, the whole kit and caboodle. And they walked away laughing and grinning because it didn't matter. Everybody was killing everybody. Nobody would care if they killed a bunch of women and children. Diffusion of responsibility. Same thing like in the situation of like gang RAPE. People watch, they see 1, 2, 3 people RAPING a woman. And so they're like, what's one more? I'm not going to get targeted. Lots of people are doing this. I'm going to have my fun. So diffusion of responsibility. Groupthink is when the rewards of affiliation, which is, make no mistake about it, look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's incredibly powerful to any individual. Groupthink sets up an environment where dissent is suppressed. It is not accepted. If you are part of the group, which feels really warm and cozy, if you try to stand up and say, okay, maybe this has gone a little too far. I don't know if I feel comfortable with this anymore, guys. You now run the risk of becoming an intended target. You will be cast out of the group and you will become a pariah. It's dangerous to dissent once you are in one of these groups. The power imbalances are incredibly real. People that are very, very practiced at exploiting vulnerabilities, they begin to demonstrate that by exploiting the vulnerabilities in the hierarchy within the group. I mean, if you guys are involved in this, you guys are in a dark, insidious, disgusting mass of goo. You don't even know it. You don't even recognize that the people that you're affiliating with, I don't mean everybody in the group, people you're affiliating with, they're dangerous. They're dangerous people. They're not normal. The personality disorders, that seem to emerge as being affiliated with being the leaders of these bully squads. Obviously, narcissistic personality disorder, because there's no empathy, and narcissists crave admiration. They have zero empathy and they need admiration. And when you're the personality disordered asshole sitting at the top of a hierarchy with thousands of little baby bullies underneath you, and you're commanding them at will, you're feeling damn good. And that feeling that is so good, you will do anything to maintain that sense of superiority. The mobbing that comes into play is it's almost kind of like watching a professional hockey team or NFL football team. These people whose one intended purpose is to harm the scapegoat, the target, the victim. They can all move together as, like, you can have hundreds of people all working together for one thing, to harm this one person. It's scary as shit. And antisocial personality disorder, or those people that are high in sociopathy or psychopathy, they have absolutely no regard for other people. None, not even you. I mean, you may get an attaboy Eddie, a pat on the back. You may, oh, you're so funny. We just love you. Huh. Try to stand up on your own and say, this is enough. You won't be so funny anymore. You won't be accepted anymore. There's also borderline personality disorder. These people that are diagnosed with borderline, they also can really, really get attracted to the bully squads. The reason for them, it's not the excessive need for admiration. It's not the lack of empathy. It is an intense fear of abandonment. They are so hungry for affiliation, to be a part of a group. And when someone opens the door and says, man, we just love you. We just love you. You're background searching. You're just so special. Come on in and join the fold. We love you. It's calculated. And the fear of abandonment, after you get that delicious feeling of affiliation and love, your fear of abandonment will lead you to smear other people in ways that you didn't believe that you were capable of. And make no mistake about it, the dark triad, the narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, they're driving this group that you think is making you feel loved and included. Research and workplace bullies, women are always the ones in the mobbing scenario. There are some types of men that will get involved in it, but it's a rare thing for them to start it, right? Usually the ringleader is female, but there are flying monkeys that are men. So these three personality disorders, the narcissistic personality disorder, the borderline personality disorder, and the antisocial personality disorder, these are the three diagnoses that always seem to be affecting the leaders of the bully groups. I mean, that's coming out of empirical research, right? Peer-reviewed publications. So, what happens to victims that are targeted for defamation? Well, there's a lot of terrible things can happen. I've given you a couple examples, today. But of the larger group of people that have experienced Gangstalking and targeted harassment, the direct empirical studies quantify and say really only about 5% of the victims are handling the bullying with rational thought. That's terrifying, y'all. Other problems that we deal with in life, where there's about 20% of people that deal with problems in a rational way. So when you're talking about a group of people that are the direct intended target of gang stalking, only 5% can think rationally. The majority of them describe intense, irrational responses like obsession, paranoia, and even self-destructive behaviors. Looking for relief from the intensity of these very, very, very real psychiatric symptoms. Looking for relief from that can cause people to accidentally harm themselves or others. In a 2010 study, Nicholas Carroll did an ethnographic study as a litigation consultant and published author of numerous resources on defamation. Nicholas Carroll did kind of an informal ethnographic analysis with going through emails and conversations with thousands of victims. He ended up describing, after talking directly with these victims and what they experienced, that analytical thinking disappears first when you are the victim of targeted harassment. Analytical thinking, frontal lobe, the part of your brain that generates solutions to a problem, stops working. Think about that. There was around 10 to 20% of these known victims who were able to apply semi-rational thought to the things that they were experiencing, trying to generate workable solutions. But the grandest majority of people, over 80% of this large group of people, they spiraled into the stages that I described earlier at the beginning of this video: disbelief, anger, depression, and paranoia. Learned helplessness began to take over. At the end of this couple of year period of time, 99.5% of these targeted individuals were all complaining about the same thing: a failure to take action. They had acquired learned helplessness so complete that they couldn't make a grocery shopping list. Severe distress impairs decision making. If the disruption in your neurochemistry is so extreme, your brain stops generating solutions. And the majority of these people just describe a hellscape of living in emotional provocation 24 hours a day. They weren't sleeping, they weren't eating, they couldn't work, Some of their houses went into foreclosure. They lost their jobs. They got a divorce. It is catastrophic. Now, I don't know about you guys. No one has ever said anything about me that was so sufficient that I would say, I want complete and total destruction of the person that said those words. Saying words is a hell of a lot different than actually doing some kind of action against you. There was a law analysis, the Kelly Warner legal firm in 2016 reviewed all of their defamation cases, and they had an expert witness who stated that the studies suggested only 5% of victims handle emotional fallout rationally, while the rest face devastating effects like abnormal behavior, psychic sores, I don't know what that means, and trauma worse than the actual misdeeds. It emphasizes how slander and libel lead to depression, stress, and irrational responses, that a high rate of suicide and even long-term suggestion of suicidal ideation as much as 14 years after the targeted harassment had ended. Kelly Warner legal firm and the Nicholas Carroll studies, these people went back 15 years and gathered defamation cases. These were real cases. These attorneys worked on these cases. The psychologists worked on these cases. These were real victims of words. In 2019, there was a piece done that was by the American Bar Association based on trial evidence. They talked about the emotional distress damages of defamation cases, and they noted that the victims of defamation were so agitated, rambling, and repetitive that they seemed completely unhinged in the courtroom. Their thought was obsessive. They were spiking every psychological instrument that they took. So were people whose brain chemistry became so disrupted by bullshit, by bullies, by people with personality disorders, zero empathy, who were getting sadistic delight at the destruction of another human being. These cases in these law reviews were compared to the military's, some of the military's published publications and training materials for psychological warfare. So the false rumors, the targeted harassment, the ostracization, the alienation, it destroys the scapegoat's self-concept. It can trigger self-blame for things that they had no control over. It can cause long-term emotional distress that is sufficient to completely destroy their mental foundation. These the impact on the frontal lobe aligns with Viktor Frankl's observations that verbal attacks are far more damaging than physical attacks. Nicholas Carroll also had some publications that talked about the psychological damage being long-term and intractable, meaning you can't make it go away. It's like complex trauma compared to just getting in a fight and beating somebody up. Those wounds heal and people can move past that. So, targeted harassment, including like bullying and slander, functions as psychological warfare because it overwhelms the scapegoat's emotional systems and their rational thought is ineffective. It shuts down and stops working. The targeted individual loses the ability to think their way through because of the disrupted chemical, the disruption in the chemical underpinnings of those psychological mechanisms makes it impossible for it to work. They're trying to make decisions and they're trying to come up with solutions in an environment where their brain is filled with emotion and cognitive biases. The strain and stress of the targeted harassment, the gangstalking, is literally changing the structure of their brain. Literally. You think you're doing no harm. You think you're not doing anything because you're just making jokes. Ha ha, laugh, laugh. But in this setting, people find it very, very difficult to make good decisions and to be logical in what they're doing. And this does stand as one of the reasons, it stands as a foundation for why the conventional wisdom is, if you become the target of bullying, get offline. Do not expose yourself to their bullshit. Back away, block, stop looking at the bully's content. It doesn't matter what they're saying. They're lying about you. And every normal person in the world knows that they're lying about you. But you get, as the victim, you get so obsessed with the group itself that you feel a compulsion to try to change the group's mind. It's illogical. You can't do that. These are people that are very weak in spirit. Anyway, their own identity is really, really weak. And they're so hungry to be accepted by that creator and to be a part of that, what they're viewing as a really close-knit group, that they're not going to find the courage to stand on their own 2 feet. They're not going to do it. They're going to follow along and be a part of the bullshit as long as they're getting the positive feedback, the reinforcement of being included in the group. So don't pay attention to them. No one likes this big group of bullies. Normal, regular people watch this happen and they go, wow, that is a group of sick human beings. So if you become a victim of targeted harassment and this is happening to you, stop watching them. Doesn't matter what they say about you. It doesn't matter. All the other people, the normal people, the healthy, kind, loving, understanding, empathetic people recognize that what they're doing is a sewage. The group that is bullying, it's a sewage. Stop watching. Turn off the computer for a few days. Get yourself healthy. Stop exposing your brain to more trauma. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. They've proven it. It's been going on a year. They have become organized and they're doing it around the clock. They're not going to quit. And every time a targeted scapegoat begins to cry or gets angry or issues threats, they love it. It's more shit added to their sewage. Clean it up. Put up walls. It doesn't matter what they say and do, because the normal people don't care about their lives. Getting out and taking a 30-minute walk in the morning and a 30-minute walk in the afternoon will help your frontal lobe start working again. Going to sleep and getting a good 8 or 9 hours of real sleep, not substance-induced sleep, but normal sleep, that will make your frontal lobe start working again, and solutions will begin to just pop up like magic. You've got to have sleep. You've got to get away from the unrelenting bullshit coming out of that. I don't even know what to call it. It's just horrible. Don't give them access to your brain. Do not give them access. It is within your control to stop hearing what they're saying. So the harassment, the gangstalking, it exploits people's vulnerability. It leads to, psychologically, it leads to distortions in thought, behavioral traps. Their victims will internalize the abuse and say, "What's wrong with me?" They'll listen to the abuse, the lies that are being spread, and they'll think, "Why me?" They will begin to interpret that as some kind of characterological flaw. There'll be a mountain of self-blame. In fact, the amount of self-blame, the questions, why me, what's wrong with me, they are directly correlated to the levels of depression and anxiety that one begins to experience. And there is no doubt you did not do anything to create this level of bullying and psychological attack. There may have been moments that you shouldn't have said and done, and you should apologize for. Only one thing that I know of, only one thing in my mind. But at this point now, it's just too big. It won't even matter if you make the apology at this point. So you have to find acceptance, which is an action. Acceptance is an action. You have to find acceptance that you are not the cause of the demonic YouTube groups from hell, right? That's called hyperbole. You can do that. It's not your responsibility. There is no self-blame for you. You had nothing to do with their bad behavior. They own their bad behavior, their low empathy, their high levels of psychopathy, their ultimate fear of abandonment, all the things that have caused this large group of people to gel together and to embrace one mission, which is to hurt one person. You did nothing to create that. So stop watching it. You didn't create it. You're not going to stop it. You can't change it. It's done. It is what it is, and it may last. It may be like Foodie Beauty. This group of people may continue to do this for the next 30 years. So what? If you don't listen, if you don't watch, you're not being harmed by them. People that experience targeted harassment, the gang stalking and the bullying, their adaptive coping seems to how do I say this? They lose faith in their own adaptive coping skills. They begin, like I said, the learned helplessness is right at the top of the problem list for people that experience targeted bullying. And whether we're talking about a high school kid who is being bullied by a large group of girls, or maybe it's happening, there's mobbing happening at work, in a work environment. People that experience this, learned helplessness becomes the very first problem that gets targeted in therapy. So it's the very first thing we start working with is the learned helplessness, to try to break that down and give that person a return of their adaptive coping skills. And I do train. It's another one of the first things that happen in therapy is teaching ways to calm and relax the physiological symptoms of stress. So I teach them diaphragmatic breathing. I teach them double breathing. I teach them all kinds of muscle, all kinds of stuff. Okay. All right. So the erosion of your self-esteem, making objective analysis impossible, requires, hear me, what I'm saying today is from mountains of published, peer-reviewed research where we absolutely get the same results each time a study is replicated. We know that this information is right. There is nothing ambiguous about this direction. If you ever become the target of bullying by a group, gang stalking, the very first thing that you must do, you must put up boundaries to deny them access to your brain. Put up the boundaries that you cannot see what they're doing. If you're making YouTube videos because this is your career and this is the way that you bring money into your home, then put up your videos and turn off the comments. Don't allow them to leave comments under your videos. Don't go looking at their content where they're talking about you. Don't look them up on Twitter to see what's being talked about in that mass of psychological excrement. Protect your brain. Repeated attacks teach victims that they lack control. This causes the victim to become passive, and it takes away from them their sense of agency. They start avoiding work or school. They find it difficult to get up in the morning or to go to sleep at night. They either start eating all the time or not eating enough. It creates a cycle of sadness, destruction, loneliness, and withdrawal. And in that environment, I'm talking about the physiological, the neurological environment where the animal is withdrawing, your frontal lobe is no longer operating. You will, there will be no perception of solutions. But if you stop exposing yourself to the wicked things that they're saying, if you don't allow them the opportunity to leave comments on your product that you're putting up, then you start walking 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes afternoon. The reason that I say 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, there's a neurological reason for that. Okay. It doesn't have anything to do with like weight loss or any nonsense like that. It is 100% about normalizing the brain's chemistry. You must normalize your brain chemistry, because right now your amygdala is 100% in control. Your brain is nothing but amygdala and parietal lobe. That's it. That's all it's working. Your frontal lobe, your prefrontal lobe, not working, which then also interferes with pulling out memories from long-term memory. You're operating at a deficit. That's why it feels like there's no answers. That's why it feels like there's no path to a solution. But there are many paths to a solution. They are there. That your frontal lobe will start working again when you get your neurochemistry balanced. So no further damage. Do not allow yourself to see what they're saying and publishing. Don't look at that. Stop comments from being left under your videos. Don't allow that. Subscribers, do not send clips of what other people are saying. Don't get on there and say, oh, I think you better go over there and look at Shady's post because she's saying mean things about you. You know what, Ginger? I don't give a shit who says something mean about me. You want to know something, Ginger? I don't look at it because I don't care. You know, all I need to know about me is this. I would never allow myself to be a part of a group of people with the intent of harming another person. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. That's the reality. I don't care what you say. I don't care if someone tries to punish me because I said the inconvenient truth out loud. I'm good. Go ahead, hate me. I'm all right. But if you're a person that this is happening to, and it has mattered to you, and it has caused real heartache, and you are feeling overwhelmed and unable to function, then you've got to take some very real steps. You've got to change your behaviors. You've got to change the thoughts that are happening in your mind. Your thoughts do not happen independent of your neurochemistry. It's all together. You can't have one without the other. Generally, the brain thinks it through an alteration in brain chemistry, and then the body does it. It's pretty easy. We're pretty simple. Stop watching what they're saying. Don't allow your subscribers to send you clips. Hell, you want to know something? Stop checking your YouTube email, because there's going to be those idiots. There's going to be those little assholes who are going to go, oh, we got to show her this. Look what they said about her this time. Look how bad this is. We better be sure that she can see that. Don't even check your damn email. Who cares? Make your comment, turn it off, and then go for a walk. Let your brain heal. Let your brain chemistry normalize. The 30-minute walk will be followed by 4 hours of normalized serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and GABA. It will normalize, and it will stay normalized for 4 hours. And the groups that I've worked with in the past where the 30-minute walk is mandatory to stay in the group, they find that the 30 minutes removes that empty, gross, nasty feeling that comes along with betrayal and harm. And they start walking in the morning, at lunch, and in the evening, and that gets them 12 hours of normalized brain chemistry without having to take an antidepressant. But you got to try it before you see if it actually works. And again, that 30-minute walk being sufficient to raise dopamine and serotonin for up to 4 hours after you finish with your walk, that comes with a mountain of empirical research. Once you normalize, once you get your brain healthy, you're not re-victimizing, exposing your brain to their bullshit, their toxic mass of low IQ crap. You are walking, which helps the brain pump up and do what it's supposed to do in terms of healthy levels of these neurotransmitters and endorphins. That is going to make it easier for you to sleep. Look, sleep is super complicated. But during stage 3 and 4, that is when you get cell replication and repair. By denying people stage 3 and 4 sleep, we watch it on a monitor. And when their brain begins to show the pattern of sleep that indicates that they've gone from stage 2 down to stage 3, we wake them up. We wake them up, they open their eyes temporarily. You can see on the EEG that they're more alert. And then we leave them alone and we let them fall back asleep. And as soon as they work down into stage 2, and then they enter into stage 3, we wake them up again. Doing that within about 5 days, that person will be having symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, because the cells of the connective tissue is not being replaced. They're not growing new cells, and they're not repairing the damaged cells. We also get a significant disruption in memory, both short-term memory, interrupted memory, and long-term memory. Both of them are highly, highly, highly affected by denial of stage 3 and stage 4 sleep. Now, REM sleep, which happens after stage 4. So the way that you go to sleep is, you go from stage 1 down to 2, down to 3, down to 4, and then REM. And then you go back up 4, 3, 2. Most people don't go all the way back up to 1. They'll go like 3, 2, and then back down 3, 4, REM, 4, 3, 4, REM. And then a weird thing happens. Sometime after about 1 a.m., for some reason that we don't really know, we spend most of our time after 1 a.m., we spend most of that time in REM sleep. So what we want, it takes about 4 hours for the first cycle to get us to REM, right? But then after midnight, going toward 2 a.m., something different happens neurologically, and we stay in REM longer. And that is actually where we get the majority of our REM sleep, is between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. Now, if you are sleep deprived, then you can fall asleep and within minutes be in REM. And REM is uber critical because of its the product of REM sleep is your long-term memory structure. It's your higher cortex, cognition and learning. It's the thing that separates you from the animals, so to speak, right? So the 30-minute walk that I keep talking about, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening or in the afternoon, that 30 minutes of sustained rhythmic moving, that 30 minutes causes the brain to just sort of reboot. Just like if you try to do something and it's not working, you can turn your computer off and turn it back on, and now suddenly it's working again. That's a little bit of what happens with that 30-minute walk. It's sufficient to sort of give a little reboot, and now your brain chemistry normalizes. We see this all the time, even in like opiate withdrawals. People can be having horrible withdrawal symptoms, right? Feeling terrible because of these withdrawal symptoms. We drag them out. Believe me, it's a physical drag. We drag them. We're like, no, you will feel better. And they're like, fuck you, bitch. I hate your guts. Leave me in bed. I'm sick. Like, okay, well, you can be sick while we're walking, but we got to go. Come on, you're going with me. And they're like, I hate you. And I'm like, I know, but you won't hate me forever. So it's going to be okay. And if we can get them out and get them walking 30 minutes, guess what happens? They got 4 hours where they feel human again. They get from a 30-minute investment in walking, their neurochemistry modifies, and they get about 4 hours where they can be a part of the group, and they can play basketball or go for a swim or do some artwork or listen to some music. And then after that 4-hour block, after that increased dopamine begins to fall off, the withdrawal symptoms return. So these people learn that if they take a walk in the morning, at lunchtime, and afternoon, that gives them 12 hours of improved neurochemistry that makes it a whole different world. And your frontal lobe will thank you by suddenly starting to generate solutions that you need if you're the scapegoat and the target of a gang-stalking group, right? Music. So Retha, you're talking about something different there. Okay, so the parietal lobes, they are the data clearinghouse of all the sensory input, the stuff you see, the stuff you feel on your skin, what you taste, what you can smell, music, what you can hear, and even the position of your body, right? We have a sense that our brain knows where we are at all times. Are we upside down? Are we laying on our side? Are we hanging by one leg? Our brain knows that. In like cheerleaders, competitive cheerleaders, that particular sense is highly developed in those girls. We watch them jump and twist around, and the guy is catching them by one foot, and we think, holy hell, what is this witchcraft? It's not witchcraft. Those girls, gymnasts included, that particular sensory input is so highly developed that they feel just as much at home upside down flying through the air as they do walking one foot in front of the other. Right? All right. What is this? If you're really a nurse and defend those boys hearing about all of this and all the crime, you're sick. Yeah. No, I don't think children should be hearing about violent crime. That's right. KJ Mack is right. Proprioceptive sense. Yeah. So the parietal lobes get all of the sensory information, right? Gets all the sensory information. And it's a clearinghouse of data where the parietal lobes are loaded up with information, and then it has to be routed to other places in the brain that make sense of it, organize it, know what to do with it. Okay. In times of stress, immense stress, when you become the targeted victim or the scapegoat of gang stalking, all of the emotion, all of the fear, all that you're experiencing, it causes your frontal lobe and prefrontal lobe to just like grind to a halt. The amygdala, the fight or flight reaction of protection or panic, the amygdala, when it gets fired up, the frontal lobe, the prefrontal lobe, they say, you know what, call me when this drama is over. I'm not going to be able to deal with this. And so it quits working. And we suffer when we need that frontal lobe the most. We suffer because it just shuts down in response to the heightened stimulation of the amygdala, which is the reason why I keep saying, stop watching other people's videos. Stop exposing yourself to what all they're saying and doing. Don't watch it. Don't think about it. Do not let other people tell you about it. Get your thoughts focused on, well, I'll just say it. If it was me, I would turn off YouTube. I would put 100% of my time and energy in playing with my children and getting healthy. I would spend my time helping my kids with their homework, tickling them, running around, rolling around out in the grass, laying in the sun, looking for shapes in the clouds, doing finger painting, watching wholesome little movies before bed, reading them a book before bed, baking bread. I would immerse myself in normal, authentic life. And I would get away from this toxic sludge, and included in that healthy lifestyle, I would do the 30-minute walk in the morning, at lunchtime, and in the evening. I would make sure that I was going to sleep every night at 10 o'clock and getting up in the morning at around 7. And then when I started to feel like a human being again, then I would plan my YouTube presentation like it is my business. I would treat my channel with the respect that a doctor has when they go into their office and they're seeing patients, or when they go into an operating room to do surgery. And I wouldn't entertain these low IQ, sadistic assholes any longer. Lock them out of your consciousness. Get your physical body and your brain healthy and normalized. Get that life-saving sleep that is so critical to health. And then your frontal lobe that generates solutions of health and survival, it will return, and you will be able to find your way out of this morass. It will come back to you. It will come back. When the brain's neurochemistry becomes disrupted, life is chaos. And it is terrifying because it makes you feel like there's simply no way out. But that's not true. That's simply the brain, the frontal lobe shutting down, because the amygdala is so stimulated, and it is just generating fight or flight all day right now. You've got to create an environment where the amygdala can stop firing. You've got to go through the physical movement, the actions of health. You need 30 minutes of exposure to direct sunlight every day to help that process along. You need to be able to get that natural sleep. And when you do these really, really simple steps, your frontal lobe will start working again and you will feel like a new person. You'll be able to read a page in a book and literally remember it, not have to read it 5 or 6 different times. You can read it one time and you'll remember what it says. All right. Let me see. I haven't really been reading the chat. So okay. Oh, really? Boston Sports Atlanta. Do you remember the clip channel it's on showing? I have on loop since so many obviously haven't heard it. Here's my question, Sammy. At this point, a year into all this, right? How do you separate all the wrongs and the rights and attribute them to each person? How do you do, how, like, really and truly, honestly, physically, how would one do that? Because the behavior has been so bad on all sides. Like, everyone has behaved badly, right? Everyone has done things that were hurtful and aggressive. So I understand what you're saying. I agree that there have been hateful things said back and forth, and done. But in truth, at this point, what do? You go through every single live, every single thing that's been said for more than a year, and you look to see whose pile is the biggest, and they're the one that's wrong. No, I think everyone involved is wrong, and I think everyone involved is also right and has also been hurt, with the exception of some flying monkeys, right? With the exception of some of those people that really didn't have a dog in the fight, but because they wanted attention, they joined up, and then they just started doing shitty things because they could. They didn't have a dog in the game, in the fight. They didn't, nothing bad was done to them, but they were just like, well, look, I can be shitty with y'all and help y'all be shitty. So at this point now, Sammy, I don't know how you make a determination. If people feel like they need to be able to say, this person caused it, this person 100% the wrong, I think after a year of this, I don't think that is even possible. I think, I think there's just been a lot of bad behavior for lots of people. And I was very vocal, and I said, the person who is the scapegoated target of all this, they do owe Clue Minotti an apology, in my opinion, about the kid, right? About the trauma of the child. That was 100% completely just unacceptable. I said the same thing about Smiley's story world when she brought out the story. Just wrong. It's just wrong. It's unacceptable, and nobody should have accepted. Not a single person in her channel should have stayed for the live. They should have said, you should not be talking about this. This is not an attack on Clue Minotti. This is the attack on a kid that was victimized. And, I don't know if people did or not, but that's, in my opinion, that's what I think should have happened. So, but I can also pull out 100 things that the bully groups have said and done that were wrong, bad. So there's plenty of finger pointing to go around, I think, in my opinion. If you're being watched and wait a minute, what does this say? Hold on. If you're being watched and you're the most near your kids are being watched too. Getting a schedule isn't going to control the behavior of others. I don't think I quite. If you're being watched and you are the most near your kids are being watched too. Getting a schedule isn't going to control the behavior. I don't know what that means. Well, first of all, it's not going to be a very popular answer. So before I became vocal on YouTube, I talked to my husband about it. And I told him there's some pretty sinister people on YouTube. And I had seen enough to know that there were people that do the real life kind of stuff. And so we made the investment. We got a really good security system, and we got cameras all over the place, outside the house and inside the house, along with, automatic call outs and things like that. I also told my kids that I was going to do this because there are some of these people that are creepy and kind of psychopathic, and they think if they can find your adult child, they can turn their lives upside down too. And I knew all this was possible because we had seen it happen, like in Natasha Cooper's channel and Mommy Ramblings and others, And so I told everybody what I was doing. And I asked them, if you don't want me to do this, I won't do this. Because there is a possibility that one of these crazy people will, do something. And nobody cared. Everybody's like, I don't care if people act stupid. And so it was not that big of a deal. But my husband and I did say to one another, we would never do this if we had kids. If we had little kids or high school kids living at home, no way would I do this. No way would I take the chance that one of these crazy heifers would somehow find out where my kid's high school was and start posting things embarrassing. No, I wouldn't do it. But that being said, that's me. That's just me and my husband. I do think there are a lot of people that are able to make very good money on their YouTube channels, and it makes it possible for them to be able to stay home with their kids, right? So I'm not passing judgment. I'm not trying to tell people how to live their lives. I think we all have to make the best choices that we can for ourselves, right? So I think if you're a person that you're willing to follow someone around and take photographs of their kids, then I think you've opened yourself up to an arrest by law enforcement. I think it's a lot different following an adult around than it is to be following minor children around. So that being said, I am categorically 100% against these lawsuits where a creator sues another creator because they said something mean or bad. Unless they are actually engaging in defamation where they are trying to destroy your ability to make money, they're trying to destroy your career, I think it's better just to not watch them and not comment on them. And you guys have a lot of power in this. And I don't know if people really realize it or not, but you do. The very minute that your favorite creator starts saying shit like, look at the photograph I took today of somebody's house, or look at this little video clip, you can see her daughter in the background. The very minute that happens, you should say, I'm not going to be a part of this bullshit. I'm out of here. Unsubscribe and leave the channel. These creators, in many circumstances, this is being done for clicks and views to grow their channels. The drama attracts people. So if you don't like them going real life and you don't like them following someone's children, then the minute you see that, remember the problem with groupthink. Remember that these people that are doing this, they're expecting you not to get out of line. Go ahead and say, you can ostracize me as you want to, but I'm not going to be a part of this crappy shit, and unsubscribe and leave. You have a lot of power. Yeah, get off YouTube for good. Sincerely, Holly. If you need to, you need to. And there was a period of time, I think I was making about $1,200 or $1,400 a month with YouTube, and I was posting stuff every day, and I got really caught up in it. And I came to the conclusion pretty fast that it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it to be emotionally manipulated by hundreds of unseen faces, all for the almighty dollar. It just wasn't worth it, right? And I took some time away, and I did some soul searching, and I came to the conclusion, this is for me. This is just fun. This is just a place for me to go and chit chat with friends, talk about the weird trials or strange criminal stuff, right? Because nobody in my real life wants to talk about that stuff. My family thinks I'm crazy that I like to watch trials. They just think I'm nuts. But I think I would have, if I had little kids and I was being affected this badly, I would really give some serious thought to not doing this, and at least until the kids were older. Perplexed, what do you think about that idea? Do you think if your kids were younger, do you think you would stick around for all of this stuff? And really the same question to everybody. If you had little kids and you felt like this was affecting your ability to be a good parent, to be relaxed and involved with your kids, do you think you'd keep it up, or do you think you'd take some time away? Maybe get a regular job for a little while. She's changed her story. I don't say things that aren't true. That's why I ask if there might be even a chance of being wrong. If it was a question of income, I would seriously think of other ways to earn an income. Yeah, me too, Jen. I do think, let's see, Perplex and my kids were young when the DC came after me. Oh man, that was brutal. Didn't somebody call CPS on you? Wasn't there a moment where, maybe I'm remembering that wrong? Hey, Team Psych Ward, good to see you. Well, what do you mean by that, Ivy League? You said just know that things are being done, and they're being done when and where they actually matter. And it doesn't matter here on YouTube in the court of public opinion. I 100% agree that the YouTube court of public opinion is it's an unhealthy place, in my opinion. When I had little kids, I had no time for that. Well, and I'm agree 100%, KJ. When I had to help take care of my daughter's little girl, there was no going live. I was gone for like weeks at a time, not going live on YouTube. When there's little ones, that's a 24-hour day job. I mean, even when they're sleeping, then you're cleaning or you're washing the clothes and getting ready for the next day and making fresh baby food. And with my daughter doesn't buy like store-bought baby food because she doesn't like all the preservatives. Yeah, when you're taking care of little ones, that's around the clock kind of job. Yeah, agree, Betty. Seeing victims being re-victimized. Yeah. I found a counselor. That's just me. I learned to advocate during my horrible divorce. Divorces can be a real nightmare. And I am glad that you found somebody that you could work with, Retha, that it was empowering for you. Okay, so that's what I thought, Laura. 5 calls from CPS to her house was horrible. Horrible. I'll believe it when I see it, not trying to be rude, but we have been hearing this for months now. And that's absolutely true, J Fox. The threats of legal action, the threats of an attorney has really only done one thing. It's inflamed the bullying groups. It's just made them, it's given them more content, correct? And it's done nothing. Look, the reality is this is not a group of people that are going to be intimidated. They're not going to be intimidated. You're not going to like tug at their heartstrings by crying. They don't care. When you cry, they like it. When you show up and there's no color in your lips and you're just one solid color of just like, I don't know, just white from the top of your head down to your neck, and you're out of it, they don't care. They do not care. They have the feeling of empathy is not there. There is no empathy. They like that. They want to see that. They want you suffering. They want you hurt. You've got to deny them that. You cannot give them access to the emotional upheaval that you are experiencing. You can't let them see that. How did the lab have anything to do with Crabtree? That's so weird. Did the CPS calls make you do things any differently? Perplexed. What is see, I don't know what this is, Sammy. You said a lot of us were in her chat when she first left BJ. They had a falling out, and Moon, is that Crimson Moon? Just recently started covering for BJ again. Laura called CPS and accused a father of prawn. I think lawsuits and using our judicial system for YouTube drama is insane, and it's a complete waste of the subs' money. Totally agree. If I need to bring a lawsuit, I've got to do that myself. That has to come from my money. I think the subscribers are being inundated with trauma. And I will say this, we are living in a very we're living in a really, really difficult economy right now. The level of everything, the inflation that we experienced after the whole COVID debacle, of course, prices will never go down. And we had no, employers have not really given out raises, and now we're losing jobs, and things are very difficult. They are really, really difficult, and I just don't think that it is fair for subscriber. This is only my opinion. Okay, I'm not casting judgment on anyone else. I'm giving my point of view, my personal philosophy. I think that subscribers are being inundated by trauma. And I think that because they're getting so much exposure to trauma, I think some of them are giving their financial resources, and they are not really in a position to be doing that. I think that is absolutely wrong. It is my opinion. If one can purchase a gold ring, that is money that could have gone to pay for an attorney. And I have heard the arguments. I know, and it's none of my business. The reality is, it's none of my business. Nobody asked my opinion. I'm just, this is what I'm talking about today. And when I say that I am legit trying to figure out a fair, that the healthiest way through this, let me put it that way. I'm trying to figure out the healthiest way through this so that everything can return to normal and we can start watching videos where creators are talking about interesting topics, not the destruction, the psychology of the just personal destruction of a targeted individual. I'm weary of this, and I'm terrified that there's going to be a disaster. And I think Granny's watching is terrified of the same thing. It's too much. It's too much, and I don't think that there is I really don't think that there is a anticipated goal. I think the goal is destruction. I think the goal is you're going to pay. We are going to make life so completely intolerable that you will give up and go away. And we don't ever have to listen to you again or hear you talk. And all your subs will then come over to us. I think that's it. I could 100% be wrong, because I don't see where anybody is really asking for something specific to make it, to normalize and make things go back to a healthier pattern of behavior. I do. There is some indication that YouTube now has human beings that are following these channels and watching the bullies. It's no longer being done by machine. Which, that's what happened, like, to Miss Effing Wonderful, Molly Golightly, even the interview room for a short time was taken down. Y'all remember that? That was shocking as hell. His channel, they removed that channel, And he had some really great media attorneys that were able to talk to YouTube, and they said, okay, you have to stop doing this, and you have to stop doing this, and you have to do this, and he abided, and now it's a wonderful channel. It's a great channel. So but that's the thing, once they get real people that are now watching you, when they've seen enough, then you just go to log in and your channel's no longer there. It's just gone. And if you're not Chris McDonough with Nancy Grace and her army behind you, then it's not likely that you'll get your channel reinstated. It was pretty rare that he was able to get his channel back, right? And I'm glad he did, because it's a great channel. So, and yeah, somebody said something about Grizzly True Crime a while ago. Love her channel. Yep. A picture of gluttony going on daily, decisions being made on how many PayPal and Cash Apps came through, decides dinner. Ugh. Yeah, it's too much. I can't speak for all creators, but I can assure you that Britt has never trashed Clue's child or the trauma she has experienced. Go demand that same apology from Clue to Britt and her kids. Now, you're like really emotional, flight nurse, and nothing has ever been solved when people are in their emotional mind, right? The best place to find solutions is when people are in their wise mind. And the reality is that I did hear the discussion that happened on the panel, and the things were said, right? They were said. And I don't know, how do I say this? I do think that when you have a panel of guests and it's just kind of like a free-for-all discussion, like everybody just kind of talks about what they want to talk about, I think that's really hard to regulate. I think that requires someone who's got really good people management skills to keep the conversation on track and on a specific topic. And it was mainly, the conversation was mainly two people, and the other person did say a little bit. So regardless, I think early on it's possible, and I am not saying that it is probable, but it is possible that if there had been an apology made then maybe this campaign of personal destruction would not have been fired up. And I'm not saying that I'm right about that. It's just as possible that it wouldn't have made any difference. I apologized to Jay is for Justice a long time ago. I cussed her up one side down the other in a way that I am not proud of. And I publicly apologized. No, I had no illusions that she would accept my apology, but I made the apology, for me, right? Because I did act out in a way that I was embarrassed about, and I wish I hadn't attacked like I did. And so I was wrong, and I apologized. But it didn't make any difference. And she still tells lies about me. She still makes crap up. That's who she is. It's her personality, and that's okay. But the apology helped me. It made me feel better about myself. And that's just what you do, right? There's no social contract that says if I act properly, then you'll act properly. That doesn't exist. That's not real. The best that we can do is act in a way that we feel good about ourselves, act in a way that most aligns with your authentic self, and let everybody else do what they need to do. but create an authentic life that you are being honest to yourself. And that is part of the recipe for living a stress-free life. Be authentic. The Timu version of, yeah, woo, what a mess, right? Look, me and Laura we've been watching this crap for a long time, years. And we've seen bigger bullies than Cluminati or Jays for Justice. You know, we've seen some real stuff. The truth of the matter is that there are going to be real people that get hurt by this, and it is going to all go away eventually. But it's not going to go away without any victims. The victims will pay the ultimate price. That's the terrible thing about it. Obviously, those subs who want to support Britt and have donated to her don't share your same feel. Totally agree with you. People can spend their money how they choose to. Nobody begged or forced them to. No, I get it. Everything you just said is truth. But I do think that trauma bonding is a form of manipulation, and it is also very powerful. And I think that when we have affection for someone, when we develop a friendship for someone, and then we see them in pain, we see them crying or upset, it makes it a lot easier to make a decision to give our hard-earned dollars to that person who we are bonded with through trauma. It's easier to give our money to them rather than keeping the money for our own kids. And that I'm opposed to that. So I guess I just see it a little bit differently. I give money to people, channel creators that I find one of their videos to be particularly interesting, or that they just did a good job on it, or that I just, I like what they're doing and I want their channel to be successful. And if $5 a month can help them, I'm good to give that. But that's not really what is, what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the same people giving shocking amounts of money. And again, nobody asked my permission. It's not my concern. I'm just giving you my experience, like my thoughts. I can see if a channel is removed, the new channels will pop up. That might be even worse in its place. Very, very true. We will also not be liked by everyone. It is okay to be unliked. People pleasing is a messy business. That is a really great comment. Yeah, that brings up a completely different issue, KJ. Being a channel creator is not really it's not really a very healthy environment if you're the kind of person that you need other people to like you. If you're really worried about other people's opinions, then being a channel creator could be hard, really hard. Because the truth is, not everyone's going to like you. There'll be a group of people that like you. There'll be a group of people that hate you. And then there'll be a big group of people that don't care one way or the other. Some people, this is new too. Some people will like what you do in one case, like the topic for one, and they won't like your opinion on another side. Like Charlie Adelson. I still don't think he knew. I definitely think that Donna is right where she belongs. I think Wendy should be absolutely prosecuted. There is something wrong in the prosecution of Charlie. And now we have, I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but Sigfredo, Katie Magbanoa's baby daddy, he wrote a letter to Georgia Kappelman. Did y'all know this? If you heard about it, put a 1 in the chat. If you didn't hear about it, put a 2. But he wrote a letter to Georgia Kappelman not long ago. And in that letter, he says to her, I've got information about Katie Magbanoa and Donna Adelson. Right? Oh, see, y'all haven't heard about it. It's crazy. Anyway, his information is basically that they were dealing with somebody named Don Adelson, and it was Don Adelson that paid two people $50,000 to do the hit, and it didn't get done. And that is when Don Adelson talked to Katie and agreed to an initial payment of $5,000, which we know Louis Sigfredo had. They had $5,000. Katie lied and said that she only gave them a couple $100 to go up to Tallahassee in June to scope out the location. But his bank account showed $5,000. And now Sigfredo is saying that Donna gave them $5,000 to spend getting ready for the hit. And then she promised to give them $100,000. Charlie, according to Sigfredo, Charlie wasn't in it. It was Donna and Katie and Wendy. How crazy is that? And remember what Jeff Lacoste said, that he thought that Wendy said $15,000, but 15,000 and 50,000 sounds suspiciously similar, doesn't it? So I think this is really interesting information. We still have Charlie's appeal that is being worked. He did not testify, which makes me think that Georgia is saying, okay, Charlie, you got an opportunity here. We got this letter from Sigfredo, and we're about to arrest your sister. And, you know, if you could spill the beans on her, that would show that you were not involved, we'll be able to do something with what happened to you. So very, very curious things happening behind the scenes in the murder trials of Dan Markell. All right. No, absolutely not. I'm an OG. No, but you know what? Isn't that exactly the same phenomenon as Foodie Beauty? Foodie Beauty is not making much of what she used to make, but how much money is being made by all the satellite channels? And they have made, you know, Foodie Beauty has become a franchise. You know what I mean? Lots of people are making a living just talking about Foodie Beauty. And I am a little bit concerned, well, I'll be honest, maybe moderately concerned, that what has unfolded with the gang stalking and targeted harassment by this group of channels, I can see a Foodie Beauty kind of subculture building. I can see it building. So I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, I'm not making money, Sammy. So I just come here to be with my friends. That's all. The campaign was already in action before that panel that night, and Britt has apologized for other people's words. The things said about Britt's children are gross, just like the people who are saying them. Yeah, no, anybody that can talk crap about little kids or someone's child, even if they're grown, it's unacceptable. It's unforgivable. Even I think it's weird for an adult to talk shit about a kid. It's weird. You're not normal. You are abnormal, in my opinion, if you're so triggered that you've got to, talk shit about a kid. Something wrong with you. So totally agree with Flight Nurse. Foodie Beauty's last money, try hard, didn't go well. Nobody wanted to help her with the dollars for the travel she asked for. When was that, Shalimar? There are some really small creators on here that do a ton of work with zero drama, and it's so refreshing, isn't it? Y'all want to know what I've been watching? Because I like to, my brain, when I turn off all the lights and I'm trying to fall asleep, everything is playing in my head. Like my whole day is in my head. And what I have to do the next day is in my head. And so it makes it really hard to relax. I feel like I'm still working. And so one of the things that helps me is to put on a YouTube channel, like a podcast or something, where they're talking about something that I don't really care too much about, right? Something I'm not involved in. And that can kind of quiet all the noise that is in my head. And so that's how I fall asleep. Anyway, I used to listen to some channels that talked about true crime, and I've stopped doing that because of all the chaos and the drama. But I have fallen into listening to, it's so crazy, y'all gonna think I'm a nut. I've started listening to My Big Fat Gypsy Wedding. Have y'all seen that? It's like a reality TV show thing. It's so crazy. It's so crazy to see it. But so that's one of the things I kind of now put on playing in the background when I'm trying to fall asleep. It's pretty funny. And I used to listen to some of the reaction channels for the foodie beauty stuff, but I don't listen to that anymore because it's just gotten, it's just heartbreaking. It's just too much heartbreak on YouTube. It's too much drama, too much chaos and sadness, and I don't want my time for unwinding to be living vicariously someone else's trauma. It's just too much. I like her too, OG. Oh yeah, they're definitely orchestrating, Retha. They're planning what they're doing. Like they admit that openly in discussion. Hey, Justice Jane, welcome. Real life police interrogations are interesting. That's something else I watch a lot of, DB. Yeah, that's good to go to sleep too. It's just sound, right? And it's not something that I'm like really going to zero in to hear, but it's enough that it keeps my brain calm and quiet. I can't believe how long has she had her new channel? Because as soon as YouTube finds out, they're just going to kill it. I like The Lab. I do watch that. I listen to the interview room while I'm going to sleep. Hidden True Crime. I like to listen to Dr. John. What else do I listen to? I try to find stuff that's going to be long form, like a couple of hours. Lady Freedom is great. Yes, she's another one that I put on. Yeah. But I got to tell you, my heart is so sad about Sebastian Rogers that I now find it hard to listen because I have such frustration. I have so much frustration about law enforcement. It To me, the biggest red flag that there was foul play is that there's no sign of him. And kids don't just walk away and disappear. They always leave signs, right? Although I will say this, it's possible that he could have gotten in the car with someone. But even then, if he got in the car with someone, wouldn't things eventually be found? Like the Gilgo Beach. They're even like just last week they uncovered a bunch of clothing that belonged to some of the girls. So there should be some sign that he walked away. There should be some indication, something. And that's not what happened. And if people don't disappear, they just don't. Somebody planned this and made sure that there were no signs. And that's what makes me think that he has fallen victim to some kind of foul play. I think Crabtree has some issues. He's always blaming others for his mental health problems. Yeah, my red flags go up anytime I hear somebody blaming someone else for what's happening to them. Look, it is true that we can be victims. It is true that people can do things that hurt us. But eventually, we have to say, hey, this is hurting me, and now I'm responsible for what happens to me. How do I protect myself? So the blaming only goes so far, right? Eventually, it is your responsibility to set some limits and to get yourself into a protected way. I got hooked on Murdoch big time. I love that lazy area. That started me watching trials. I think that was the last trial that I was hooked in on every word. MFW back for a few months. Molly, she's a couple of months old now too. I think Molly got taken down because their channel was subpoenaed. MFW was on a strike and she went live on her backup channel. Is that's why she lost her channel, Cinnamon? Because she does TikTok now, right? Is she actually streaming on YouTube? What are Molly's and MFW's channel, please? Yeah, I don't know, Lacey. I thought both of them had gone over to. Well, I know MFW is on TikTok because I watch it sometimes, but isn't she doing Rumble maybe? No, not Rumble. She's on that Kick. She likes Kick. If you are truly afraid, you would put your family first. That's common sense. In agreement, 100%. Yeah. And I will say this too. I did go after someone legally because they broke the law in a huge way. I did go after them legally, and I never talked about it on my channel. I didn't make it channel content. I just told my attorneys, do your thing. Here's money, do your thing. I don't want to think about it or talk about it. And it worked. She's back. What's the name of her channel, Grammy? We can't drop their YouTube since they are banning. Both are banning. Oh, well, then better not put their channel names up. Arena, I was obsessed with that trial for some reason. I think he comes off as genuine, naive, gaslit, and a bit easily confused and misdirected, but earnest. I would agree with all of the above. Yep, sure would. I know someone who went after another legally on here silently, and she won her case. And then some all in about a month, and no one knew a thing about it. Really and truly, Holly, that is the best way to do it. It doesn't need to be anyone's content, and the judges are going to take it much more seriously without the drama. And so treating it as an act of respect and allowing your attorneys to do the work and you not messing it up by running your mouth, it's just going to have a better outcome all the way around. Yeah. Missing 8-year-old in New Mexico. Someone walked right in the house and took her in front of 2 other children. And I think it was her aunt that also came up missing, recently located. That is horrifying. When did this just like recently happen, Cinnamon? And have they found the girl, the child? That's what I don't agree with. Grown adults being told to stop and then physically stop, and they ignore them and make another channel. I mean, every time they do that, they get caught and they get taken down again. So she was in a comment section recently. Oh, Holly, you're so right. Can you imagine trying to explain all the chaos to a judge? You know what I think it was, DB? I think it was one of those situations where no one really won. She wasn't made to pay any damages. It just kind of, I think it was really unsatisfying for both sides. But I would think that Mommy Ramblings was relieved that she didn't have to pay what was being, what she could have had to have paid. So I think it's all over with now. I think it's finished. Is this okay? So I'm an OG says it was dismissed without prejudice, so it can be refiled if held to the no decides to. I didn't know that. Thank you for putting that up, OG. Yeah, but how much money does it cost? It's just, I don't know. Anyway, things have definitely changed, and not to our benefit. And the subscribers and listeners, they're really the ones that are cheated out of good content. I don't know about you guys, but I am weary of the back and forth anger and hurt feelings, and not those channels, like listening to Brittany J's channel, their discussions about the trials or missing people. That was really relaxing, really entertaining, worthwhile, right? And it's just a big loss, It's real. I wish it hadn't come to this. And I do think it was intentionally targeted. but it could go back. It could, to insulate herself from seeing their bullshit would help her get focused back again, but every things change, right? Change is the only thing that is constant. And we definitely, YouTube, this community is definitely in flux, no doubt about it. So, but repeated attacks teach victims that they don't have any control. It leads to learned helplessness that is characterized by avoidance and being passive. Perseverance through challenges stops. Performance is reduced, and the person begins to experience intense sadness, loneliness, and withdrawal. Logic and logical responses become impossible, which includes a failure to document needed evidence, and they can't confront the issue in a calm and methodical way. So once the learned helplessness and the demoralization kicks in, people begin to make mistakes, and important things in their life begin to fade. The anxiety and the depression that comes from the harassment result in negative thoughts. Rumination is awful. The social isolation that the bully group is trying to promote becomes very real. And when all of this begins, then the frontal lobe shuts down and is no longer providing potential solutions for the problem. You get locked into feeling helpless and hopeless, and you can't see a way out. However, setting boundaries, denying exposure to the upsetting content, cutting off the bully's ability to communicate with you, increasing your exercise, promoting healthy sleep, good sleep hygiene, engaging time with your family and real friends can very quickly help your brain heal. And then you'll enjoy a return of problem solving through your frontal lobe once you find peace and you begin to relax. And as subscribers, we really need to do our part and not go to the creator's channel and say, hey, you need to go look at this video. They're bashing you. Or did you see what this person said? Or you need to go over to Shady's channel because she's putting up shitty posts about you. We have to avoid that instinct. When people become the target of these antisocial assholes, what they are experiencing is very real. And when you are exposing them to more trauma, you're just as big of a part of a problem as the one who originally said it. All right. So that is how I'm going to end 2 hours of talk. Okay. You guys are awesome for hanging around and, listening to this. I hope that it fell on some ears, that it had meaning, and that you will find it as helpful. Please subscribe if you haven't. Hit the thumbs up before you leave. And I really appreciate you hanging out with me this afternoon. I got a Monday afternoon to myself. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do a video. All right. Y'all have a wonderful Monday evening. And Laura, hopefully I'm going to get home in time for Tuesday night, but I can't commit to it because I'm going to be in a location that sometimes I don't have control over when I actually get to leave. All right. But I remember you. All right. Y'all have a wonderful evening. And I hope you'll take to heart some of the things I've said. And, we got to find a way out of this so that things can try to get a little healthier for everyone especially the people being targeted. All right. You guys have a wonderful day.
In the shadows of the mind where secrets hide, we dive into the dark where truth collides. Forensic minds unravel the twisted thread. True crime tales from the living and the dead. Why did they do it to help?